Welcome back to Attendance Bias, everybody. Hello, this is your host, Brian Weinstein, and I have another very special guest today to wrap up the last two shows of the MSG 7-night run of the summer of 2023. That would be August 4th and 5th of the year. We've had two previous recaps. That would be from the first weekend. That's from the guys from the Stub Me Down podcast. The middle two shows, the Tuesday and Wednesday, that was with Ryan Storm. And today, the final one, the recap of the last two nights, and maybe some scattered thoughts of the run as a whole with friend of the podcast, previous Attendance Bias guest, Ben Fortgang. Ben, how are you?
I'm doing well, Brian. It's good to be back.
Glad to have you. The previous time you were here, you were on with your dad, right?
I was on with my dad doing the Gorge recap.
Yeah, we talked about the Gorge show from July 15th, 2016. And I think that was the first time I ever had two guests at the same time on the show. I was nervous as hell, but I think it came out really well. I was really proud of the episode. I hope you enjoyed it too.
Yeah, no, we had a blast. You did a phenomenal job orchestrating the whole thing. So we appreciate you inviting us both on. We both could talk a lot. So I thought we did it pretty well.
Well, we are both from Long Island, so I think we know what that's like to be able to talk a lot. But we're far from that. We're far from 2016. We're past the Baker's Dozen in 2017. We are here. It is the morning after, or maybe just past the afternoon of the day after. Phish just wrapped up their 7-night run. I am running solely on Mama Celeste microwave pizza and Gatorade Zero and still shaking off the cobwebs. How are you doing this just past noon on the Sunday, the 6th?
I'm doing really well, actually. I feel pretty under. My legs are toast. I did all 7 shows, 6 of them on the floor. So,
oh wow,
yeah. So a ton of effort in that sense. But body feels good. I did the shows sober. It was actually my first full sober run, which felt really good to do that, and didn't wake up feeling like crap every day. So I'm pretty proud of myself for that. So yeah, I don't know. It was definitely something to celebrate on my end.
Can I ask, what footwear do you use to be on the floor for 7 nights?
I use Brooks sneakers, which are fantastic. I work out in them as well. It's funny. I would meet up with friends after the shows here and there. We'd go to a bar or whatnot. I'm in like shorts, t-shirt, sneakers. Like it's total comfort wear. I'm not going to those shows to dress nicely, but yeah, my feet were okay. It was definitely more so my hips and leg, like I don't know, my thighs that were kind of shot, but my feet stood through the test.
For me, it's my calves and my legs, like my quads, are just toast by the end. I started the run by wearing Tevas, but I knew after like 2 nights that was not going to hold up. That's a bad long-term plan.
Yeah, no chance. I can't wear those. I gotta have like proper footwear for these types of things.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my new podcast, Two Old Schmucks Talking About Phish Footwear.
Really run out of topic to talk about at this point.
Well, I'm not running out because we got 2 shows to review. The first night, Friday, August 4th, 2023. Let me ask you, leading up to this, what had your impression of the run as a whole been since you'd seen every show leading into this past weekend?
Yeah, it was fantastic. I thought that it was getting better each and every night, honestly. And what was standing out to me is that I thought every set had 3 or 4 big jams to look back on and get really excited about. Energy was super high. I thought the days off served really well for both the crowd and the band. Particularly, I think like Sunday night, which was a heater of a show, particularly set 1. Set 2, I thought the energy started to just die down a little bit, mostly because everyone was a little bit tired. So the Monday break brought a really good show Tuesday, maybe my favorite show on Tuesday. So then the Thursday break going into Friday, I thought got spirits really high and the energy really high going into it.
What did you do on your off days?
Oh man, what did I do my off days? I worked. Really not much. I worked and recovered, and nothing really exciting. How about you?
Yeah,
Did you do anything?
well, I'm lucky enough to be a teacher, so I didn't have to go to work. Monday, I honestly, at this point, don't remember. It's all a big blur. Thursday, a friend of mine who was in town from North Carolina, he came out to where I live, to Queens from Manhattan. We drove to my favorite brewery on Long Island. We then went to dinner in Flushing.
Nice.
which was really nice. I
Nice.
feel like a lot of people who come to New York on a vacation have this habit of staying on Manhattan.
Right.
And no criticism there. There is quite enough to see there for a week plus for a
Mhm.
lifetime. But I think that anyone who's in town is doing themselves a disservice if they don't explore any of the outer boroughs
I agree.
at
So I'm
all.
actually moving to Whitestone, like right near
Oh, right down the
Flushing.
block.
Whitestone. Yep, yep, yep. So I'm going to be there soon enough. We'll meet up in person, maybe eventually.
Sure. We'll get some
Yeah,
soup dumplings.
yeah, yeah. I got to kind of learn the area. Like I've been a lifelong Long Islander in New York City. I did a couple years in Denver, and that's why I'm back now. But I don't know that neighborhood at all. I just know the food's great, so I'm really excited to get to know the neighborhood a bit better.
We'll talk off mic a little bit,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
I got a
Sorry.
lot of good
Let's
things
talk
to tell
fish.
you.
Let's talk fish.
No apology necessary. But the first night, so Friday, I was feeling pretty good walking in. That Thursday night I just described, or Thursday overall, served me well. First set, Buried Alive, the MoMA
Mhm.
dance, 46 days into the debut of Back in the Bubble,
Mhm.
Bouncing on the Room, Birds of a Feather, Haley's Comet, Rogue, and a closer of Run Like an Antelope.
Mhm.
For all of the talk about themes and different gags and all that, I think one theme that developed throughout this run were top tier first sets.
Mhm.
This set blew me away. At the time, I think out of maybe 7 shows, there were 5 times where I was blown away by set one, and this was one of them.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. I actually want to run the stats, us data nerds that the Phish fans are, the Buried Alive openers, and correlates to the rating of a show. Because I'm convinced that every Buried Alive show is ridiculous anytime they open with it. And this one was as well. It's funny. This was one of the only first sets that I wasn't totally blown away with. I thought the Buried Alive MoMA 46 Days was top notch, particularly that 46 Days. Back in the Bubble, I think Mike's songs could suck the energy out of a room, and it did a bit on this one. And I thought that it kind of like struggled to get that energy back until the Run Like an Antelope, which is funny. I was texting my buddies towards Rogue saying, "Oh, this seems like a bit of a step back of a first set, and like energy is a little bit lower." And then sure enough, they go into a Rip and Antelope to shut me up like Phish always does, and they prove me wrong, and that's why I keep coming back every time. But yeah, I had a little bit of a different reading of that set than you did, but I'm excited to actually go back and hear it eventually because it does have a lot more to offer than I think I realized when I was there listening to it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this set is a bulletproof set. I wouldn't go to the mattresses for it necessarily in that way. But I agree with you. And I've said this before on the podcast that Buried Alive is like a signpost.
Yeah.
It's a communication device that the band says, we're going to do something really good. Like this is going to be a good show. I agree with you through 46 days. I really enjoyed this 46 days.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in the atypical version of it because they didn't just do the big arena rock where they start low, build up, Trey ripping guitar solo, which I enjoy, especially at Madison Square Garden. This one, they fell straight into a very even groove.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got into that, big 46 days, the big
Yeah.
build up at the end with the flashing Corona lights. But for the most part, this 46 days could have been substituted, or the jam in it could have been substituted with a lot of different jams throughout this run. And I thought that was unusual because I consider 46 days to be their prototypical arena rocker.
Yeah, agreed. It actually reminded me, I saw the Trey Trio show in Mission Ballroom in Denver, and they had another similar 46 days, not a typical arena rocker version, like kind of experimental jamming on it. I'd highly recommend listening to it. I went into those shows with very low expectations because Tab usually doesn't click for me that much, but that trio that they do is really awesome. And that's another version similar to this one that gets out there before kind of coming back to a massive peak. Worth checking out.
For sure. For sure. I think a lot of people I've spoken to who have gone to those shows all say the same thing. They went in with lower expectations because no one knew what to expect.
Right.
And were pleasantly surprised. Back in the Bubble, I have to listen to again. In the moment, I agree with you. I thought it was kind of not a letdown. That's not the right phrase, but did suck a little bit of the energy out of the room. But I think that's also due to unfamiliarity with most of the audience. People didn't know what they were hearing. So a lot of people didn't cheer right off the bat, which extends out to the rest of the song. Bouncing around the room, I'm always happy to hear. Always, always. There are lots of chompers around me. Wasn't happy with them during that. But man, that run of Birds of a Feather and Haley's Comet to me, those were typical jams of this run, which I mean is a compliment. They could have been the highlight of any other show.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do need to go back and check those out. I think they were really pretty jams. I totally forgot that they still had birds on the table, so that caught me off guard when they went into it. But I thought then they segued into Rogue really nicely as well, which they did for the last couple shows. They connected the songs really beautifully. So that was definitely a highlight.
My friend leaned over to me during Haley's comment, and it was like right when they either end the song, if it's like a 4.5 minute or 5 minute Haley's comment, or they go and decide we're going to jam it out. And he leaned over to me. He goes, "All right, which one are we going to get?" Mm-hmm. And I had just had this feeling they were going to jam it out just because of the vibe of this whole 7-show run. And I was so glad they did. You're right that they segued into Rogue. And that Antelope hasn't done much for me in terms of surprising me. Like they haven't really done anything so unusual in the last 7 or 8 years with it, just my opinion. Yeah. But I'm still a sucker sometimes for a crazy energy set closer. Right. And this one bought me in.
Yeah, 100%. I could count on my hand. I've only been seeing Phish since 2009. And first song that's probably one of their biggest ever, like so many ripping versions in 1.0. I can count on one hand probably the amount of times that it's wowed me in 3.0 being, or 3.0, 4.0, whatever you want to call it. Between, I think that version we just heard, Magna Ball was a great one, and Jones Beach 2013, 2012, I forget which year exactly. But that's really it for the ones that are like, holy crap, like jaw-dropping type stuff. And it's just, as I said earlier, is exactly what the room, I think, needed in the sense of, you don't want to end the set with a Rogue. Yeah, not that they would, but I think that Antelope really set us up for what's going to be a monster set 2 coming up.
Yeah, this second set, hot take without having listened back to it just yet, could be one of the sets, like a finalist for a set of the run. Yeah, it goes 100%. Mike Song opener into Sand, into Cross-Eyed and Painless, into A Life Beyond the Dream, The Lizards, and closes with While My Guitar Gently Weeps, with an encore of Weekapaw Groove into Fluffhead.
Yeah. Nuts.
Wow. Yeah.
Nuts. Perfect on paper. Even with the Life Beyond a Dream, which I know some people don't like, but a very well-deserved breather after I don't even know how many minutes, probably 45 minutes of just ridiculous high energy playing between the Sand, Mike Song, Sand, Cross-Eyed.
Yeah, that Mike Song opener, and it wasn't unusual. They have so many arrows in their quiver to break out for set 2 openers. So to hear a Mike Song open their second set, and this became also, talk about themes, another theme of this run would be short opening songs with a big jam in the 2 spot. So this Mike Song really could have gone either way. It could have been a 7-minute Mike Song and then, just growing into Sand. That was not the case. I think last I checked, this Mike Song registered at like 23 minutes and change?
Yeah, something like that. I saw someone say the longest ever. I don't know if that's definitely.
I think it's second longest.
Second longest behind, do you know what the first longest
I don't know the exact date, but I know it was played in 96.
Okay. Yeah. It was monstrous. And you're right. I thought it was going to be a short one. I actually thought they were going to drop into Tweezer, just like the energy in the room felt like that where it was going to be, and then the big jam in that 2 spot in the Tweezer. Can confidently say, and I hate to use so many like superlatives, but like the best Mike Song that I've ever seen, but by a country mile. I can't even think of one that kind of comes close to that. They just kept going on it. It was ridiculous. We got the second jam on it, which was quite nice. I don't think I've seen that. I've only done it a few times since I've been seeing them, with the Baker's Dozen and then one in Nashville, maybe it was.
Yeah, the one in Nashville, actually, it was on that date. It was August 4th, 2015. Really? I'm a big champion of that show. I was at that show, and, get me started, but I'll talk your ear off about it. But yes, that was another time. The first time, I think, in 3.0 where they did play that second jam.
Yep. So I gotta go back and check that show out. It was a good tour in general. But yeah, just monstrous. And by far, I mean, maybe the highlight of the run previously before that jam, I had the Fuego into Oblivion as the highlight for me. And I think that Mike's definitely topped it. So I would agree with you by saying this is probably the best set of the run, and starting with what I think was the best jam of the entire run.
Yeah, and I don't want to speak for you, of course, Ben, but I'm speaking for myself, and I just get the sense that you and I are on the same page, that when we say maybe the best jam of the run or the best set of the run, it's kind of like organizing your gold jewelry.
Right.
It's like there's
Margins
really,
are that thin, like that,
yeah,
such small margins. And that's also when I was talking about set one, I was texting the rest of the group. I was like, or my friends, I was like, oh, it's kind of like a weaker set. And like, oh, don't bash on it. I'm like, no, I'm not bashing. It's because every other first set has just been that insane this entire run that, like, to say that that one's on the bottom, it's like still such a high watermark of a first set for Phish.
absolutely. I feel the same exact way. The sand, weirdly, to me, is like the least memorable part of this suite of
Mhm.
Mike's sand cross-eyed, and that's not a bad thing. Like
Yeah.
sand is just as well. It could probably match up against a number of jams from this run, but to me, the real attention in my memory goes to Cross-eyed and Painless, which was played at like cocaine level speeds.
Yeah, crazy. I don't know if you saw that video floating around of the stage bouncing up and
Yeah, I
down.
did.
Yeah, it's so cool. Trey was dancing in his little David Byrne type like acrobatics up there was really cool. That was the only show I wasn't on the floor for, so it was cool to actually see the pit going nuts because the entire room was jumping up and down. And band didn't let up. They didn't stop. Even Fishman, I think, forgot the vocals at one point and they didn't slow
Yeah.
down after doing that. Crazy energy, only topped by the next night, a moment that we'll get into later on, I think, when it comes to energy wise. And going back to the sand for a second, a highlight for me with the sand was actually, I think, the drop into it was really cool. I think hydrogen obviously is the obvious spot there, but wasn't sure what they were going to do. And dropping to sand, I think, was a perfect, not cool down, but just like lets everyone breathe for a little bit, but still deliver some goodness before just a monstrous cross-eyed that's played at crazy speeds. And then towards the end of it, I think goes into this really nice kind of ambient type space, if I'm remembering correctly, before falling into Life Beyond a Dream. But yeah, definitely another great moment of the entire set.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree entirely. Cross-eyed and Painless, I think there was a part toward the end when Fishman was starting to play the Weekapaw groove
Mhm.
drum beat,
That's right.
but I guess Trey is, I guess it's not entirely democratic, despite what they may say. Excuse me. Every
Is it
group
ever
does need a
real?
leader.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever really democratic. I think
Yeah.
Trey is totally the one choosing the songs. He'll hear what the rest of them are doing. I'm surprised he didn't pick up on that Wickapog because it was very obvious that he was playing the Wickapog drum shuffle. Um, and then I remember kind of weirdly falling into Life Beyond a Dream as well. But that the last like minute before it was really nice. And one, not gonna say complaint, but I'm always on reading um online and what people are saying about the shows, and people are like, oh, like all they're doing is peaking, which is like that's not something to complain about because
Yeah.
it sounds awesome and it's great, but like, oh, they're not getting out there doing like some weird stuff, which I'd also argue there was a lot of that. But towards the end of this cross set, I remember being moments of like not just crazy high energy peak, but really beautiful playing that they're being really patient with. So I was appreciative of that.
Yeah, we're not there yet, but when it comes to the Saturday night show, there was some weird stuff.
Yes.
But
Yes.
yeah, Life Beyond the Dream, everyone needs to go to the bathroom at some point. So they put Life Beyond the Dream and then bringing everyone right back in with the Lizards, right? It's kind of not everyone's favorite song. I don't mean it like that, but I don't know anyone. There's got to be someone out there, but I don't know anyone who's ever unhappy to hear the Lizards. That's
That's a
when you
classic.
hear those opening notes, it's like the most pleasant Gamehenge song.
Yeah. Yeah. The full crowd sing along. Everyone was very much so into it. Nice spot to drop it too. I typically hear it in an encore spot. I don't even
Yeah.
remember the last like mid-set Lizards that I got, and the set still wasn't even over after that. A well-played version as well. I think Trey nailed the solo at the end. He can't do those fast riffs that kind of peaks before that slow outro solo, but he was definitely trying to do them, which I appreciate, and it didn't just like gloss right over them. So yeah, very welcome Lizards in that spot. That kind of helps put the bow on what could be a contender for the best set of the entire run.
Yeah. Although it's not over yet. There's still
Mm-hmm.
While My Guitar Gently Weeps,
Yeah.
which I thought in the moment had a nice symmetry to the first set closer on, I think it was the Tuesday night show when they played I Am the Walrus.
Yep.
So these Beatles set closer, and this While My Guitar Gently Weeps wasn't a piecemeal, or it wasn't just a token Beatles cover, even though it's a fairly simple song when it comes to instrumentation. I remember I saw them in Hartford in 2009 and they encored with it, and it was good. It was good, but it didn't blow me away the way this one did.
Yeah. I think they did a lot of British rock band covers, and I put it that way because my brother, he's been to probably 10 or 15 shows because he's kind of gets dragged into it with the rest of the family who are crazy Phish heads, but he's like, oh, I really want to see like them cover the Beatles or the Stones or Bowie. And sure enough, like they were doing that the entire run, kind of sprinkling that in throughout. And each one was a really stellar version, I thought, between Moon Age Daydream. Forget which night that was, but maybe Saturday.
I think that was the second night.
Monstrous one to end the set. Really good. I'm the Walrus, and then another really good While My Guitar Gently Weeps with a ton of energy. Everyone's loves to see the Beatles. They're my favorite band. I believe the Who is yours, if I recall correctly.
Good memory.
So, so I was really happy to hear the Beatles, and my wife turned to me. She goes, "Oh, your favorite band covering your favorite band! Like, you must be so happy." And at that point, I'm on cloud nine after the set that I just heard anyway. So it was definitely a nice treat.
Yeah, I mean they're dads, right? They're in their 60 or getting close to 60. They're like every other dad. They're going to listen to classic rock, probably get really into the Civil War or World War II. It's just the way it goes in America.
That's right.
And then the encore. This is going to be an unpopular opinion, but standalone Weekapaug grooves just itch me the wrong way when they start. I'm so used to the big power chord at the end of whether it's I Am Hydrogen or whatever simple, whatever song is in the middle of the suite, big power chord. And then as the chord fades, you hear the drum beat almost like rising up. I don't know how much I love the standalone Weekapaug grooves, although I'm always into it by this time the song proper gets started.
Right.
I don't know, man.
I don't think that's too hot of a take for two reasons. One, I don't know if Trey was in a rush or just knew that he needed to have time for the fluff fed, but he started playing Weekapaug before anyone was even at their instruments. So it kind of gave it a clunky beginning. He was wasting no time. And my other friends, I wasn't with them during this. They told us the story after. They turned to each other and they're like, wow, like a Weekapaug with no mics. Like, I don't think I've ever seen that before. And then totally forgetting that they just dropped the 30-minute monster mics to open the second set. But I agree. It feels weird standing like it's just not like where it's supposed to be. At least not with like something preceding it. So I don't think that's crazy, but nothing really, I think, to write home about with that version of Weekapaug. I just kind of had to do it to put an exclamation point on the Mike's groove of a second set. But really nice fluff head that
really big time fluff head. It was executed very well. They didn't just play it to get it done with as an encore because they were looking at the clock. Did not have that feel. That go around at the end when they're jamming. Took it around a couple more times than couple extra more times than usual, I mean to say. Really, really smart choice, and everyone went home happy. Great show Friday.
Yeah, fantastic. And agreed. A little extra sauce on that. Not even one peak. They did another peak, maybe 2 or 3 more peaks on that fluff head. I was beaming walking out of that show. And after a first set that I was kind of like criticizing, I was like, okay, that might be the best show of the run now that I walked out of the actual building. And I'm excited. I still haven't really sat and processed this whole run and like ranked them. Not that you really should be ranking shows or need to rank shows, but it's something that I really want to do because there's just so much to offer these last 7 nights.
I was thinking something similar, and I don't know which side I fall on. I don't know if this run is, I don't want to say worth ranking, but I don't know how much there is to get out of it except personal pleasure, which should not be discounted, like personal, being at peace with it. I don't know, because you mentioned earlier that kind of placing sets above or below one another are by razor thin margins. And it kind of depends on what day of the week or what time of day you're listening to it. It might be better or worse than any other one. To me, this is one blob that cannot be hashed out or separated. But again, it's been less than 24 hours since it ended. So my opinion is subject to change.
Right.
And with that, we are at the final show of the run. That is Saturday, August 5th. First set opens with Loving Cup into Maze, Martian Monster, Divided Sky, Prince Caspian into NICU, Steam, and closes with Drift While You're Sleeping. How were you feeling walking in to night 7?
I think the same way that everyone else was feeling. A lot of the not pre-show jitters, just a lot of energy in the room. I think the lines getting in was unlike anything I'd seen any other night, and we made an effort to get online pretty early for a good spot on the floor. We like to go way up on page side and hold down our space there. And every other night, single file, everyone kind of just chatting, hanging. And this time in even like a couple hours before show starts, like 6 o'clock, just mobs of people going in, and like that was kind of the energy of the entire room, the entire floor. So just the build up to the show felt like something different was going on. There was rumors of they're going to play till 1 a.m. I think they told the ushers. So we are Ranger season ticket holders, and we know the security guards pretty well, and they told us to prepare for 1 a.m. close potentially tonight. We heard that I don't know if you saw this rumor, that there was a box that got people moved out of their seats in section 103, the wheelchair section. They were
I did
told
see
like
that one.
Yeah, so told that there maybe be a gag. So like just stuff like looming, like kind of that New Year's Eve type feel of like it's the big finale show. That was definitely just what I was feeling. My cup kind of felt overflow at this point already. It was very okay that even if they did mail it in, I was like, I got my money's worth going into these last 6 nights. But we all knew that they were gonna deliver tonight.
Yeah, I'm guilty of spreading one of those rumors. One of the security guards told me again that they're up till midnight tonight. Expect a little bit extra playing, a little bit extra time. And the Yenta that I went straight to Twitter and told everyone the security guard told me they're going to be up till midnight. It did not happen. And that's, a theme is the rumors of themes.
Right. From night one, even they did like Phish's creative director tweeted out a sloth like the morning of the show being like, 7 deadly sins, tonight's sloth theme. Then obviously they had the sloth shirt. So everyone's like, okay, it's 7 deadly sins. And it was a total misdirection. And I think they threw a lot of those out at us, some psyop work on the fishing side, because they know how like crazy we are of our theories and just jumping on anything. So that's a funny part, like the theme thing that just hung over the entire run that never really came to culmination. It was pretty funny.
I wonder if they started out with this idea, because I imagine they plan these runs about a year in advance when they're scheduled. I wonder if they had a brainstorming session and just threw out a bunch of ideas, and then in the end just ended up saying, let's just play 7 shows. And these were like the breadcrumbs from those brainstorming sessions.
Right. That sounds accurate. Knowing them, they put way too much time and effort into these types of things, and they actually do have a ton of thought, and they know that they crushed the marketing of Baker's Dozen, and like, should we do something similar? So somewhat interesting that they didn't. More power to them, more respect that they were able to just do 7 straight up shows, and we all walked away even like more awestruck than I think we even expected going into it.
I loved the Loving Cup opener for this one. It goes along with your recently said motif of a lot of old British classic rock band covers. This is one that's been around since 93. So everyone was really excited to begin with. I don't know if you saw this, but circulating around Twitter, there was a user who proposed to his girlfriend just minutes before the lights went down. So
I heard it. I heard something happen. It must have been in section 118, 119.
It was on the floor.
Was it on the floor? Okay. So
Yeah.
I saw because I thought people were turning towards the seats. But I heard a huge cheer like going on behind me of stuff going on. So that's really cool that they got a Loving Cup right after that. I love that.
To open it, good one too. And then Maze, I got to tell you, so there was a portion of time, maybe from like 2013 to 2016, where I didn't really get excited for Maze. I thought it was kind of rote, where they were playing the same song over and over again. This Maze had me having flashbacks to when I was listening to tapes and getting to know the band for like shows from like 93, 94, when Maze, in my opinion, was at its peak. And it just seemed as good as it's ever been.
Isn't that crazy? 40 years in, and they're still
Yeah.
doing like best. I mean, not that I shouldn't say best ever version, but like versions that it's just amazing to know that they're doing it at this age. Totally feel that. It's why I keep coming back to Phish. I've explained it. I was explaining I'm at a new job, and I was telling my new coworkers that I'm doing Phish, and like they understand that whole world. Like, oh, you hit up all the shows. And I was like, yeah, it's the only thing I do in life that gets exponentially better. Like it really is. There's
Yeah,
other
the
things that
Rangers
like
certainly don't.
no, the Rangers 100% do. Like I can't think of anything that doing it so many times it doesn't get monotonous or overdone, or how you were just describing that maze where it's like rote, I think is the right good word for it. But instead they come out and surprise us and they do versions. They're like, holy crap, I didn't know they're even capable of doing it, or take it in a completely new direction. And that's why we love these guys so much.
Absolutely. It's kind of the one of the only things that the more you do it, the more it reaps its own benefits.
Yep. Yep.
Not that every show is amazing, but that it
No.
just makes the amazing shows even more recognizable. The next segment of Martian Monster and Divided Sky, this is coming from me. This is not probably, I'm probably not the best person to give an objective opinion on this. Before coming into the show, I was so tired. So tired. And I didn't have to work like you did, and like so many people did during the day. I don't know if I'm built for the constitution of all these number of shows in a certain number of days. My hat is off to anyone who did all 13 shows of the Baker's Dozen. I was just so tired. I mentioned to you before recording that the only time that I felt anything even close to this was at Coventry, was when I fell asleep standing up in the mud during David Bowie, which I think was the encore of the first night. And I wasn't anywhere near that tired, but it flashed in my brain. It was reminiscent. So for me, Martian Monster and Divided Sky were good.
Yep.
But I was kind of where you were just describing, like my cup was overflowing. Is like I felt satisfied already, and this was all just extra. Yep. And so I didn't freak out of my seat. I didn't go nuts. It was good enough. But Prince Caspian, when that started and my seats were kind of high up, I saw everyone kind of going to the bathroom. Yep. Fools, all of them. Don't since Magnaball, you should know. That's don't exactly underestimate Prince Caspian.
It's the song, as anyone that truly follows this band knows, has taken on a new, rising, a new birth. It just rose from the ashes since Magnaball, and we've had some crazy versions too, of which At the Garden, I think the Baker's Dozen version is quite good. And this one is maybe the top 3 version that I've ever heard. Fantastic. I didn't even realize. I think it clocked in at like 15 minutes or something. It's like pretty freaking long. Yeah. Really, really good. Going back to what you're saying, I felt the same way this show. I danced really hard at the last 6. I was very okay with my eyes closed, kind of just swaying back and forth for this show, which fit well. And I think Caspian was a perfect song for that. My buddy that I was talking with says with any time he hears Caspians, he feels like a breeze come through at no matter what venue that he's in. And that's kind of like how I felt, just like eyes closed, taking it all in. It's hard to close my eyes when you have that amazing light show going on the whole time. But at that point I was very good, just being very meditative and relaxing. But monster version that I'm excited to spin again, which I haven't said in a while. I think since like probably since 2018, like last 3 or 4 years, like I haven't gone back and like re-listened to versions that much and songs that much. I've still seen a ton of Phish. I talk a lot of Phish, but it's more so digest it right when it comes and like onto the next show, and that's it. And this run has left me wanting to go back and listen to quite a lot. And this Caspian being an example of one of those songs.
Yeah, it's the it's kind of the successor to the Baker's Dozen in that way, where there's just so much music that you kind of have to pick your spots.
Yeah.
And it's hard to listen to either entire shows or entire runs and have the time to do it. I remember in 2013 when they played Atlantic City for Halloween, when you could download the shows after seeing them with your ticket stub barcode instead of streaming them as we do now. I would download all the shows and then burn CDs of like the best of. And I would have out of 3 shows, like maybe 2 CDs or 3 discs to listen that would kind of rotate in my car over and over again. And that's kind of how I feel about this one. I guess I'll have to make a playlist somehow. But So
You can
and
make a playlist on live Phish.
yeah.
I've been doing that. I'll share it with you afterwards of
Oh,
just
thanks.
yeah, no problem.
That's what I'll have to do then. All right. So after Prince Caspian, an amazing jam from
Yeah.
it, NICU, which I always love. It's the first song I ever heard Fish play live.
Oh,
It was
cool.
at Madison Square Garden, so I always have that sentimental attachment. Although
Nice.
nothing crazy about this one. Steam, which I always enjoy. However, they did not use the steam, the fog machines. And on top of it, I'll say in this very aggressive tone of voice, Trey is starting to woo his vocalizations during Steam. What is
Yeah.
happening?
Borrowed from the studio version, I believe, or they added those in. I think he's trying to copy the background singers there. I'll take the na-na-nas and everything's right, but maybe overdoing it with working them into Steam as well.
I'm proud of Trey. I'm happy he's making the effort to up his vocal games. I think he is probably now the best vocalist of the band,
Mm.
even compared to Paige, who I
Mm-hmm.
think for years I would say that about.
Mm-hmm.
And he's really making the effort to be the professional singer. But
Didn't need
no,
those.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
you could leave those. Yeah, and I think it didn't make the song any better. I actually will applaud. I think going into the MSG run, which have we landed on a name for what we call this? I got a Magnificent 7 pin, but it was MSG 7 or Magnificent. I don't know how to pronounce that.
I
What's the
have my
closest
name.
thing?
I have
Yeah,
my name. And we'll get into this maybe after we're done with this show to wrap things up. I
cool.
think it should be called The Future.
The future,
I think
right?
this is what
Amen.
the future of Fish is going to look like, but we can get into that
Yeah, and that'd
in
be
a little
great
bit.
because I think the rest of the country still got some shows and like the spring tour here. But yeah, we can talk about that after. But on the singing part, going into this MSG run, Trey at the other shows leading into the summer tour was really leaning into that Broadway Trey vocal stuff, and some just was not working. I think there's a
No.
really like butchered like a song I heard the Ocean sing at one of those shows, and I thought that he actually didn't lean into it too much once he actually got to the Garden. He did more of his, stayed in his range, wasn't trying to do the soprano stuff. So I was happy to see him let up on that. But if that means that we're gonna get some oohs and steam, then then so be it.
And the set closes with Drift While You're Sleeping.
Mhm.
Eh, I like
I-
the song. I'm glad they're
Right.
happy.
Right. I'll take the song. I understand it's an energy sucker of the room. I like it. How I, from an objective standpoint with no emotional attachment to it, what I do like, I think it's a good composition. I think up there with like Petrichor, but like Petrichor like is 16 minutes that you just can't get back. Where this one at least ends with a nice little like sing along and the
Yeah.
people get going. So you knew it was coming this at some point this run. It's the right spot for it, and leads us up to a good set too.
Yeah, definitely. And back to back, set two opens with another Church of Trey song, Set Your
Yep.
Soul Free, which again is very short. This kind of followed that trend of the run of having a short opener with, I dare say, a long second song. After Set Your Soul Free is Tweezer, and again, contender for Jam of the Run. What say you?
Yeah, up there for sure. And to what I said earlier, where it didn't lean on that very heavily used quote of like crutch of just white light peaking. In fact, I think Trey intentionally like stayed away from hitting that high peak and just wanted to keep the jam breathing and going and going. Monster of a Phish song. When people ask me what my favorite Phish song is, I always say I'll take a tweezer at any show. But my favorite Phish song is A Perfectly Placed What's the Use? And sure enough, we got back to back here. So it was just perfect for me for them to just go into that What's the Use. And I know that I think they actually called it a Guy Forget.
It is pronounced
No.
Guy Forget, yeah.
Yeah, but on live Phish, they do like a 6-minute tweezer and then a 17-minute Guy Forget. So I think that's semantics at that point. But I think we'll call this a proper tweezer jam. It was like a nice 30-minute tweezer. I don't think it hit the heights of the 12:30:19 one, possibly.
But it did come to mind.
Yeah, 100%. You knew there was going the distance on it. I think that when you asked me like what the feeling was going into the show, the tweezer loomed. Everyone knew that, tweezer was going to come at some point. Was it going to be a tweezer fest? Was it going to be a monster one? We ended up getting a little bit of both, which I think is perfect. So, yeah, a great version. I think it's too fresh, and I haven't like listened to it enough to like get into the actual nitty gritty details of where the jam went. I think I could dissect that hood later on a little bit better, but all I know is that was an epic version that everyone wanted and we all needed.
Agreed. And I don't think anyone, as far as those setlist notes go, I don't think anyone's going to look back and say, "Hey, remember that 17-minute Guy Forget
Yeah,
from
exactly.
MSG?" It's
No,
not going to happen.
no.
Although it was pretty fun as a completionist for myself, and
Yep.
I love stats. To
Yep.
say that, oh, I got this song that I didn't even know I was chasing.
Right. Exactly. And a core memory of mine is streaming the Dick's 2011 shows where they did a really big like Go Ski for Jay, I think it was. So it
Mm-hmm.
took me back to that. It's crazy to think it was like 12 years ago at this point, listening to those shows. But yeah, really cool. That's kind of why we play the game to get
Yep.
moments like that.
And I love the end of that Tweezer jam. What you were saying when they went into what's the use.
Hmm.
You're right. It didn't go for that. I don't want to say easy, but that typical huge high note, all the white lights up on the crowd peak.
Hmm.
It got real weird.
Hmm.
And Page had a lot to do with that. It
Yep.
broke down into very strange noises that very naturally and organically segued into what's the use.
Yep. So Trey was doing that. I don't know what to call it, the kind of robot-y effects.
Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. The
Yeah,
robot.
yeah, exactly. And he started it with the maze in the first set. He wasn't doing the normal harmonics. He was playing with that effect, and it was cool to see him bring it back later on. It's the only time I got to hear it this whole run. Just perfect into what's another beautiful Phish song. Crowd's absolutely silent for that what's the use, so you know that they're all locked in, which I appreciated. And yeah, couldn't have asked for anything more.
After that, to me personally, I won't say that I couldn't call it a nosedive, but the set did kind of even out.
Hmm.
It was very straightforward after Tweezer and What's the Use was over.
Hmm.
I didn't jump up out of my seat again. I mean, I was standing, but I didn't like go nuts for it. Sense and Subtle Sounds back into Tweezer. It was kind of both.
Yeah.
Everything's right. It was like all kind of mashed up and mixed together. It's hard to kind of parse what was being played when.
Right.
And then closed with Backwards Down the Number Line and Tweezer Reprise with a Harry Hood encore. My favorite part of it was the Everything's Right Tweezer mix up, just because I love gags and I love games.
Yeah, it was fun. A little bit of Trady HD, as I like to call, where he just going back into Tweezer. What am I going to play? Want to squeeze in the ones. I think he really wanted to get Numberline in there. It's such a it's 40th anniversary. It's important to them. That song's important to the band. I always loved hearing it. So I think the Everything's Right was great, but that Tweet Prize was absolutely bonkers. I thought it was nice to get one to close a set. I don't know the last time I heard a Tweet Prize to close a set and not close a show. So it's a little bit weird not walking out of a show after hearing that version. And anytime you hear a Tweet Prize, kind of blow the doors off. But really sweet Hood. I don't know what your thoughts on that Hood.
I thought it was going to be Hood and First Tube. And so that's not doesn't really answer your question. I thought the Hood was perfectly cromulent, as they might say in The Simpsons. Like, it's perfectly fine. Didn't knock me out. I thought it was good. And at that point, I was beyond saying whether this is good or not. Right. At that point, I was just like, let it happen. Just take it and, take the W.
Right. Which is how we should be doing every show, but we're crazy. So what I thought about the Hood was when it's that minor kind of type 2-ish playing, not fully type 2, but it wasn't just the strict bliss peak. It kind of did a darker jam and molded right back into a normal type 1 version, and I appreciated that quite a lot. I thought it sounded good. I normally don't like those versions, so I saw the Hollywood Bowl Hood back in 2013 that was pretty groundbreaking at that time, because it was like 20 minutes, went out there and everyone's like, oh my god, this is nuts. And I was like, that doesn't do it for me. I like my Hoods traditional. It's like such a perfect Phish song to begin with, and this one I thought was going in that direction, and they tied it up really nicely, I thought. And nice exclamation point on what was a phenomenal. I just cannot believe that the band is playing at this level this far in their career. I'm just so grateful for every note that we get out of them, and not just, it's not sloppy at all. It's just it's so well executed every night.
Ben, any overall thoughts, observations, ideas that we didn't get to touch on, or that you've been aching to tell someone since the beginning of this run, but no one cares to listen?
Yeah, I'll say a couple. One is, I know there's a ton, it's someone who did the floor of the whole run. There's so much chatter about the floor is the worst. You can't, there's no space. And like, there was space on the floor. People could dance, people could move. So I will go out there and say that you could definitely have a good time doing the floor of a Phish show. So I'll get that out there for all the people that are floor haters. Secondly, we started to hint at this, but I think the formula they use this year for a tour, I really do hope it is. I mean, obviously biased because I live here and it's easy to catch shows, but they love MSG so much, and it's so clear that they're locked into that room and easy load in, easy load out. Trey gets to sleep in his bed every night, and the rest of the country gets to catch some shows. So I hope that they stick to this residency type formula. It'll be interesting once the Sphere comes in the mix and they start contracting out there, because they're obviously going to be doing some shows since that's MSG owned as well out in Vegas. But I really hope that they do this again. And it goes to show that they don't need to do anything special. They don't need to do these crazy themes or giant marketing. They can just do 7 straight Phish shows, and we could walk. I mean, maybe it's because we're deranged, but I don't think so. I think it's because the band's that good that we'll walk away saying, well, they're still the best band on the planet.
I agree with both of those takes. I do think that this is, like I mentioned before, when we have a name or don't have a name for this 7-show run, I think this is the future. It's the present, but also the future of the band. Because you mentioned the fall tour and the spring tour. I might not get all the numbers right, but the spring tour and the fall tour are each something like 8 shows, but each one only has 3 or 4 venues apiece. And I think they've been slowly building up to this over the last maybe 5 or 6 years of, you come to us, we're not necessarily going to come to you, where it's 2 or 3 nights in any given city, spread out across the country, but not that far spread out. You know, a big part of this nation will probably have to get on a plane to go see Phish within the next couple of years, for better or worse. You know, there are people who probably hate that and it's cost prohibitive. And there are people who might love it. They might love to take a vacation and go to Chicago for 3 nights.
Right.
You know, but between Mexico, between Dick's, between this, you know, if this becomes a routine thing at Madison Square Garden, the New Year's run again at MSG, if they do go to the Sphere in Las Vegas, it's not one night, like 3 or 4 nights in a row. Alpharetta was 3, right?
Yeah, it was 3, and they crush it there. Like there's a good .net article that went up after the shows. If you look at Atlanta and the shows they've done there, they have some of their greatest shows of all time down in that city. So yeah, I think it's a great formula, and I hope we stick with it. And I hope the band wants to do it. I don't think there's a lot more experimenting they need to do when it comes to the perfect tour. So, and throw the Gorge in there for the Northwest. There's a lot of places that kind of plant themselves for a few nights, and we'll make it to them.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you look at like military maps where different forts or like weapon centers that have like big dots on them. I think that's going to be Phish, where it's like there's certain centers of the country. Those are going to be their stops. Be there, or sorry, you missed out this year. And I have mixed thoughts about that. But like you, I'm so close to Madison Square Garden that I'm not going to complain too much. But I probably sound very cocky and kind of like an asshole if you're a fan in Texas.
Right. But example. I think if you're a true fan in Texas, you see the level that they play in New York, and you have to respect, and you're getting good music and they get to hear it still. And if they want to make the effort and come spend some time in New York, we'll welcome you with open arms.
And it also might lead to the length, to the health of the band.
Yep.
You know, to not tour as much. It will almost certainly cut down on traveling costs. If you look at them, you see Trey's, what do you do? Or what are you doing? Instagram reels. They're not a small organization. They have at least 4 semis and at least 4 or 5 buses every show, between every location. So if they can financially make it work and still keep up playing at the ability that they've shown, make it happen. You know, that's what live Phish and webcasts are for.
Yep. Amen.
Well, it's been a long week. I think I'm going to go back to bed in just a couple of minutes, but Ben Fortgang, thank you again so much for, getting up, I would imagine, fairly early after a long stretch. We each did 7 shows. That's no small amount. I appreciate you being here, being prepared, and being able to just offer your opinion and some really cogent thoughts on the last 2 nights of Phish, the run overall, and the state of being as we see it.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. It's my favorite thing in the world. So I'm so happy to do it. And thank you for cutting the time out. Let's go get our well-deserved rest because we put in just as much effort as the band. So thank you again, Brian. This was great catching up with you.
All right, take care, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, be good.
And that's it for today's recap and for all of the recaps for this 7-show MSG run in the summer of 2023. I'd like to thank the guys from Stub Me Down for the first recap and joining me for it. I'd like to thank Ryan Storm for the second recap, and of course, Ben Fortgang for being game for doing a recap so quickly on the turnaround after the whole run is over. It's been wonderful. I've had the greatest time recapping these shows and especially going to them as well. And thank you so much, everybody, for listening and always supporting Attendance Bias. If you haven't yet, I'm getting ready to celebrate the 3rd anniversary of the podcast. If you'd like to ask me a question and do a lightning round question for me, please record a question, anything you want to ask me. Phish opinions, music opinions, anything about me personally. AMA, ask me anything. If you could record a question on your phone or any recording device and email the question to me or the sound file, email it to me at attendancebias@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to include it and answer it on the anniversary show, which I'm hoping to add and air at around the end of this summer. So thank you so much again for listening to Attendance Bias, and I'll see you next time when we resume our regularly scheduled episodes.